Yo, what's going on, man? Today we are reacting to who is the strongest parody superhero. To me, I personally think it's Sporticus. If you guys don't know,
special push-up. Wow! Let me see. How can I make push-up special? I know.
that is him. He is one of the sickest. He lives in Lazy Town and he eats apples. And you know what they say? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, let's see who it is and let's get into it.
Is Captain Underpants stronger than Metro Man?
Never.
Could the Crimson Chin beat Captain Man from Henry Danger?
Yes, he can.
Yes, this is an incredibly stupid idea for a video. But in
Crimson Chin is
I stumbled
beast,
onto some of the most
look at his chin. He just
unbelievable feats
hits you
for
like
these
this in
joke
your-
characters. Did you know Sporticus from Lazy Town once lifted one of the pyramids of Giza? Or that Word Girl caught
That's
a
what I'm trying to
meteor
say.
capable of obliterating an entire island? By
Big
the
up
end of this
Sporticus.
video, you'll have a complete understanding of the full powers and abilities of almost every major parody superhero from pop culture. Metro Man, Word Girl, Captain Underpants, Sporticus, and more. And at the end, I'll give you a
man.
breakdown of how they stack
He's the
up
one.
and tell you who's the strongest. But before we dive in, a couple important ground rules. When picking these characters, I decided that they have to be actual parody superheroes, not just silly characters from superhero media. So Deadpool and Squirrel Girl are not showing up. I also won't cover anyone from The Boys, as that's a fairly serious superhero universe, just a really
You know, I
edgy
never
one.
watched that
The
show.
same goes for
Everyone
One Punch
told me
Man.
I should
And
though.
lastly, I won't cover characters that are meant
You
to
guys
be
let me know
earnest.
if it's a good
Captain
dummy,
Planet
promise.
isn't a parody of superheroes, he's just a really lame one. Got it? Okay, let's kick things off by explaining every character, starting in the mean streets of Cincinnati. The Crimson Chin from the Fairly Odd Parents is a comic book superhero idolized by Timmy Turner. In the show's universe, he's basically Dimsdale's own Superman, Batman a little bit, and Spider-Man parody. Over-the-top beacon of justice with a jawline sharper than Wolverine's claws. Within the world of Fairly Odd Parents, he's the creation of some fictional comic writer. And Timmy, thanks to a wish from Cosmo and Wanda, literally
One of the
jumps
sickest
into the
shows, by the
panels
way.
to team up with his hero on several occasions. And the series leans hard into the parody aspects. Chin is a send-up of Golden Age tropes and a satire of every Boy Scout superhero ever. Morally pure to a fault, melodramatic in every single line delivery, and almost allergic to nuance. Powers-wise, the Crimson Chin is stacked with the usual laundry list of super abilities. Flight, strength, invulnerability, heat vision, and a chin sense that lets him detect evil. Fun fact, he's voiced by Jay Leno, which is actually part of the
Holy.
gag. The character's
'Cause his
enormous
chin is
jaw is
long,
a clear exaggeration
too.
of Leno's own big-ass chin.
Yeah,
Over time,
holy.
Crimson Chin developed a whole rogues gallery. The Brass Knuckle, Bronze Kneecap, H2 Olga, and who could forget?
The nigga chin!
Real name...
Who?
CH Indigo, the Chin has some pretty impressive feats.
Was
He
that an
uses
actual
heat vision
thing?
to evaporate dozens to hundreds
in the
of gallons of water in an instant. He's lifted up buses over his head and tossed them around without effort. Can imbue others with a portion of his strength and has basically endless stamina. And of course, he can use his chin like a weapon, striking enemies with it directly or firing lasers out of it somehow. The Chin is definitely goofy, but
funny.
wherever evil lurks, he'll be there to shout, "Justice, thy name is Chin." Cartwheeling in next is Sporticus from the
Yes.
Icelandic kid series Lazy Town. One of those shows that felt
Bro.
way too energetic for early 2000s Saturday
This was the
mornings.
sickest
if you
show
know
ever.
Who Sporticus is, you either watched this show as a kid or you saw one of the
go
various
to Lazy
memes that have
Town.
spawned from it in the decades
This
since.
is
Cooking by the
one
book, We Are Number One, you know. But if you don't know who Sporticus is, let me put you onto some heat. Created by Icelandic gymnastics champion Magnus Sheving,
Oh,
who
say
also
word.
plays the character. Sporticus is basically what happens if an Olympic
Oh, no wonder
athlete
he could
and
jump
your
and
middle
flip like
school
that.
gym coach used with Batman into a single human completely powered by fruit. Within the world of Lazy Town, Sporticus is a superhero in a blue beret who lives in an airship up in the sky and swoops down whenever the town's residents aren't being healthy enough. His entire mission is to get kids active and eating
And eat
right,
fruits
and he usually
and eat
does this
healthy.
by quadruple backflipping onto the scene and punching your slice of pizza into orbit, replacing it with his patented sports candy, which is just some marketing bullshit he spins to try and get kids to eat apples and bananas. He's the polar opposite of the show's villain, Robbie Rotten, whose entire goal is to make everyone lazy and fat. His abilities include a mastery of
looking at this just
super
makes me
agility,
like
perfect reflexes,
so
and an
happy
almost
'cause I used to watch
supernatural
this all the
talent for
time.
turning every problem into a calisthenic routine. It's actually, unironically, super impressive watching him do push-ups with no feet or hold his body horizontally on a flagpole. Even his gadgets, like the crystal that alerts him when someone's in trouble, wrist-mounted grappling hook, or his, and I'm not joking about this, tactical yo-yos, are all built to withstand his ridiculous gymnastic shenanigans. Now, it might sound like Sporticus is just Batman without angst, but he actually does have supernatural powers. He's ran faster than a cannonball, lifted an entire pyramid, and even dragged a spaceship out of the moon's gravitational field. Those last two were only possible when powered by a sports candy. That wasn't a joke earlier. He's
AKA
like Popeye
fruits.
with his spinach. When Sporticus eats an apple, his fitness levels skyrocket. But in the same way, if he eats anything unhealthy, he loses all of his fitness powers too. So we should remember both of those facts in the final ranking. Moving on, Captain Underpants is one of those characters.
Yo, I never watched
really
this show, but like I
captures
used to read
the
these
bare
books all the
essentials
time.
of what it means to be a classic superhero. A cape, a pair of visible underpants, and that's it. He's the brainchild of author Dave Pilkey and the star of the Captain Underpants book series, which debuted in 1997 and became a childhood gateway drug into
1997,
absurdist humor
say
for
word.
an entire generation. In
I did not know
universe,
that.
he's the comic book creation of two prank-happy kids, George and Harold, who accidentally hypnotized their grumpy principal, Mr. Krupp, into becoming the underwear-clad superhero that they drew in their homemade comic books. And while his first adventure is just about a 40-year-old bald man prancing around 95% unclothed against his will,
He's
shenanigans
40?
soon occur that give Krupp the actual superpowers of the characters from George and Harold's comics, and that's where things get really wacky.
guy
His
looks like
powers
an
are
egg.
fairly standard: super strength, flight, invulnerability, and the ability to ignore basic shame. But he also can become as elastic as his waistband, his body literally squash and stretching like a rubber hose
I think I need to
cartoon
watch this show
Mr.
because
Krupp
like I don't know
transforms
anything
into
about
the hero
Captain
whenever he
Underpants.
hears the sound of fingers snapping, which is both his origin and his biggest weakness. If you splash water on his face and the hypnotism wears off along with his powers, it'll leave him as a powerless grade school principal, confused and half naked in public. Water is definitely a glaring weakness, but don't count out the terror in tidy whities. He's flown through outer space, lifted enormous building-sized killer toilet monsters, and battled enemies capable of shattering planets. As long as there's a curtain around to wear as a cape, Captain Underpants will always be there to save the day while singing tra-la-la. But he's not the only captain on this list. Captain Man comes from Henry Danger.
Oh, I
Nickelodeon's
never watched this
superhero
show, but like
sitcom
I've
that
seen
ran from
so many
2014
memes
to
about it though.
2020. Basically the network's answer to what if Batman, Iron Man,
funny.
and your embarrassing uncle were all the same guy. Within the show, Captain Man, real name Ray Manchester, gained his powers after his irresponsible
What channel
scientist
is this
of a
on,
father
like,
accidentally
Nickelodeon
zapped him with
or
an
YTV?
indestructibility ray. The result is a hero who can't be hurt by anything, but absolutely can still feel pain, leading to exactly as many gags as you would expect. He sets up shop in the city of Swellview as the town's resident protector, operating in his secret HQ, the Man Cave, with a sidekick named Henry Hart, aka Kid Danger. Captain Man is the ultimate mix of vanity, heroism, and dad-level cheesiness. He's genuinely brave and wants to help people, but he's also completely self-absorbed, the kind of guy who saves a bus full of kids, then immediately demands a statue of himself doing it. In that way, he's kind of one note, and the same can be said about his powers. He has complete invulnerability, and definitely some enhanced strength and speed. He can casually dodge lasers, throw adult men across a room like it's nothing, and even hold onto a spaceship as it re-entered the Earth's atmosphere. Well, that last one isn't exactly a strength feat. It's actually a part of one of his most inexplicable abilities,
Damn, hold that. I thought
ignoring
you could dodge
physics.
lasers.
Captain Man can apparently subconsciously manipulate the laws of reality around himself so that traditional physical rules do not apply, although this
From
isn't
his
something
beard?
he seems to have any knowledge of or control over. But he's really most effective with his plethora of gadgets. A laser remote with built-in tractor beam, boots that glow red head whenever an explosion happens nearby, a memory wiping machine, and a plethora of
Nah,
other
he
bullshit.
seems like the weakest
Basically,
one.
whatever happens to Captain Man, you always know he will be okay. And here are some synonyms for okay. Fine, alright, decent, or acceptable. That's right, next up is Word Girl, or what happens when a PBS
Oh,
kids
I see
show
what you did there. I
accidentally
see what you
creates
did
a money
there.
god. If you don't know, Word
Think you're
Girl
smart,
premiered
huh?
in 2007. It was an educational series all about teaching kids a better vocabulary. But I only know about it because of a Twitter thread I saw once explaining in explicit detail why the star of this kids show could tear Homelander to shreds without breaking a sweat.
Yeah, he's the
Seriously.
weakest
Real
one.
name Becky Botsford, Word Girl is an ordinary 5th grader who's secretly an alien from the planet Lexicon, which is honestly a pretty good pun for a grammar superhero. After crash landing on Earth, she's raised by human parents and uses her powers to protect the city from villains like Dr. Two Brains, Lady Redundant Woman, and Chuck the evil sandwich making guy. Because she's a pretty direct Superman parody, Word Girl's powers include the expected flight, super strength, frost breath, and invulnerability, but also a genius level vocabulary. Every episode ends with her defeating
Holy,
an
but
evildoer
this man
and
just
then
still
teaching them a new
beer
word,
glizzies
I
out
guess,
there.
to humiliate them. The writing in this series is actually fairly funny sometimes. Like when they did a version of the scene from Invincible where Omni-Man uses Mark to brutally kill an entire train of people, as if any of the 6-year-olds watching this are gonna get that reference. But really, she is a powerhouse. She's tanked forces greater than nuclear explosions, flown from the moon to the sun in seconds. Her helmet makes her resistant to mental manipulation and mind
So
control.
far to
Not
me
to mention,
is-
she frequently breaks the fourth wall,
what's
speaking
the name again?
directly to the narrator. Plus, she can see things that happen off-screen or during cutaway
Sporticus,
segments, despite that breaking the
Crimson
logic of her
Chin,
fictional
Captain
universe.
Underpants
Word Girl
her,
is
and then the guy
surprisingly
from
impressive, and
Animals.
one thing's for sure, her aptitude is prodigious and indisputably merits commemoration in the loftiest of dictions. And flying in for our final spot is
words.
Metro Man, the golden boy superhero of DreamWorks' Megamind, voiced by Brad Pitt. He's a character designed to embody
Oh, yeah, I
every
forgot about this
perfect
guy.
hero trope and then flip it upside down. He's the adored savior
think he
of
might be
Metro
third
City,
then.
famous for his dazzling smile, laser vision, and perfectly coiffed Elvis hair that stands in contrast to Megamind's big-ass, blue-ass, bald-ass head. Metro Man is Megamind's lifelong rival, an unstoppable, indestructible symbol of good that the villain just can't seem to beat. He can fly, move at impossible speeds, shrug off missile strikes, and even play the guitar mid-battle without breaking a sweat. Something that foreshadows his eventual transformation into Music Man in the god-awful direct-to-streaming Megamind sequel series that should never have been made, and I will do my best to not be mentioned.
There's a Megamind.
But beneath all that
word.
perfection, Metro Man is bored. Being a flawless, invincible hero has left him existentially drained. So, during one of Megamind's big evil schemes, he fakes his own death, disappears, and lets the villain win. The hero who walks away because constant victory made his life meaningless. So, that probably bodes pretty well for his strength levels, right? Most people know about Metro Man's ludicrous levels of speed, like when he dodged Megamind's death ray and went on to have an entire day reconsidering his life choices, reading dozens of self-help books, eating
Imagine
a meal,
you're
chilling
that
in the park,
fast.
and crafting a fake
Holy
body,
smokes.
all in
How
the
that
teeny
fast?
tiny amount of time it took for the ray
Mad.
to hit the ground. Or when he flexed his calves so hard it sent shockwaves through the streets of Metro City. Although that last one wasn't actually him, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sure you've all been itching for it, so it's about time I tell you exactly how strong, fast, durable, and dangerous all these heroes are. How we scaled them up to
I'm
those
putting
points, and of course, who is the
Sporticus
strongest.
first. I don't
Let's
care.
get into it. First up, did Sporticus really lift an entire pyramid
Yes.
just because he ate an apple?
Yes.
Sort of. Comparing the size of his Zeppelin to the pyramid and assuming a hollowness of about 30%, similar to the pyramids of Giza, this thing likely weighs around 6 million kilograms, and he fairly casually pulls it up off the ground with his grappling hook. Put
From an
another way,
apple.
that's
That's
48
even more strong.
megajoules, or enough to obliterate a small building. And when a space shuttle was stranded on the moon, he saved it with his Sky Chaser, a ship powered entirely by him
his
pedaling
foot.
his feet like a bicycle,
Yo,
and
do you know how
dragged
strong
the
you have to
spaceship
be?
faster than the moon's escape velocity to make it back down to the planet below. Not including
Yeah,
the
he's
weight of his
first.
Sky Cycle, that's an 88,000 kilo vehicle, pulled at more than 2,000 meters per second. If he put that force into a kick, it would blow up an entire city block. Plus, his ability to outpace a cannonball puts his running speed above at least 200 miles per hour. And if we assume Robbie Rotten runs about as fast as an average person, Sporticus has been recorded as 22.7 times faster than him, 340 miles per hour, or half the speed of sound.
This guy is
Honestly,
so technical
his
with
strength
everything.
and speed put him leagues beyond Captain Man, who's likely only wall level with his punches, although he is deceptively fast. He's able to casually deflect laser blasts while mid-conversation and barely paying attention, giving him at least supersonic reaction speeds. And his gadgets buff him quite a bit as well. A single man grenade can destroy a block of solid concrete, and the man buggy has missiles capable of blowing up a tank in one shot. And of course, while most characters' durability scales directly to their strength, Captain Man is a big exception. We've seen his indestructibility pushed to ludicrous levels. He had a 62 kiloton bomb detonate inside his stomach, and was stated by his team to be able to survive the supervolcano beneath Swellview, which threatened to destroy all life on Earth if it erupted. A life-wiping explosion like that, vaporizing all the oceans, would require hundreds of millions of gigatons of TNT, or 15 billion times the force of the greatest bomb we've ever built, the Tsar Bomba. Now we're really getting somewhere. Moving on, Metro Man has the speed feat that I wondered most about before writing this video. His extended existential crisis in the fraction of a second before faking his death. By comparing the distance the death laser moved while he first avoided it to leave the room, we can see time was slowed down by a factor of 62.4 million, meaning he was walking around at about 1.3 times faster than light. He could have experienced about 24 hours in 1/1000th of a second. Absolute nonsense, but he is a Superman parody, so it makes sense. As for strength, he's explicitly stated throughout the movie to be physically superior to Titan, who tosses around chunks of skyscrapers, as well as every machine Megamind ever devised, including his death ray capable of wiping out a small city, and his later supercharged dehydration gun, which obliterated a 10-mile wide meteor heading towards Metro City. As much force as nearly 200 gigatons of TNT, enough to wipe out a large island. Word Girl is also pretty busted. She has an incredible speed feat, flying from the moon to the sun 150 billion kilometers in just under a second and a half. Obviously, this means she can survive in space and shrugs off the heat of the sun's surface, but her flight clocks in at an astronomical 347 times faster than light. As for strength, we see her catch a meteor, literally still scalding from entering Earth's atmosphere, mere inches away from the ground. Then she tosses it miles away into the ocean. With the size of this meteor, we can assume it weighed nearly 3 million kilos, and at terminal velocity, that's island-level destructive force, 47 gigatons. Remember, she's a 5th grader, so hypothetical word woman is terrifying. That said, as a Superman parody, she does have a major weakness: Lexinite, a radioactive chunk of her homeworld lexicon. It saps her powers just like kryptonite, and it even reduces her vocabulary, causing her to misuse and mispronounce words. Also, fun fact, in the canon of this show, Lexicon didn't even blow up. Word Girl just accidentally wandered onto a spaceship as a baby, and I guess her parents never cared to look for her. Anyway, keeping waistbands elastic and undercarriages cottony, Captain Underpants also has some pretty redonkulous showings. Many times he defeats the villains of his stories with Flip-O-Rama, a fun gimmick where you're supposed to flip the page of the book you're reading back and forth between two images to simulate animation, usually of him punching or kicking apart gigantic skyscraper-sized monsters or robots. But his best stuff comes from scaling him to other characters in the story. He's stated to be equal in power to both the villain, Captain Blunderpants, as well as fellow heroes like Super Diaper Baby. We've seen the latter push the Earth out of its orbit and further away from the sun, drastically altering its temperature in a matter of minutes. Something like this would take more than 400 decillion joules on the low end, or enough energy to destroy a large planet. And in terms of speed, he was planning to fly from Earth to Uranus and back in the span of 15 minutes to retrieve a lost kickball, a trip that would have had him moving at 19 times the speed of light. And
Damn.
consider that's his travel speed. He seems to think it's faster for him to use the elastic of underwear to launch at enemies like a slingshot, so it's likely he has an even faster projectile attack speed. Finally, sorry I cleft you waiting, bringing it all back to the Chin that kicked us off, Crimson Chin probably has the most varied powers of the bunch. All types of laser, x-ray, and telescopic vision, including one that generates or maybe teleports suitcases to him. I think it's a general materialization vision, and lasers that fire out of his chin too, because maybe sometimes his eyes are tired, I don't know. He's got minor toon force with a stretchable tongue, as well as meta abilities.
A stretchable tongue? Is this man like a lizard?
Including overriding the will of other people so that they always act in a way that allows the Chin to win any battle against evil he's experiencing. The authorial intent of his story
they
is
did that on
controlling
purpose,
people
man.
without their knowledge. This seems really busted, but it's exclusively to uphold the theme of good triumphing over evil. It doesn't help him in contests not against villains, and can theoretically be circumvented by killing him before the world can be manipulated to save him. That said, for his more tangible scaling, we can compare him to Mighty Mom and Dino Dad. These are Timmy's parents
I do not
who he
remember
wished
that
to be
episode.
imbued with the same powers as the Crimson Chin. They were able to punch apart giant meteors. Man, that's kind of a common feat here, huh? A 20 kiloton feat divided between the two of them. A town-level show. And when Timmy asked his dad how far the sun was from the Earth, he flew there and counted the miles, saying it was 186 million. Now, this is more than in the real world, where it's only about half that, so I'm guessing he counted the miles on the way back, too? Either way, let's be generous and say the sun is just further from the Earth in the Fairly Odd Parents universe. He made this trip in just under 15 seconds, or 70 times the speed of light. Finally, he also has a version of Kryptonite, Chin-tonite. Yeah, real original. So, how does everyone stack up? Well,
it's like
Sporticus
everyone is based
surprisingly
off of
strong compared
Superman.
to what I thought.
Like,
he outclasses
holy.
Captain Man pretty handily in both movement speed and striking power, and his various sports gadgets should allow him to maneuver around anything actually dangerous like the Man-Buggy's missiles. But he obviously can't damage Captain Man at all. He'd be best suited trying to trap him under rubble or throw him so far into the air that he comes crashing down in the ocean.
He's
or,
still
I don't
gonna
know,
win,
maybe
man. I don't care.
escapes our atmosphere.
He's just the
The
best.
reason I started with these two is because there's a fairly big power gap between them and everyone else. Metro Man is actually the slowest of everybody else, just barely exceeding light speed. He's getting blitzed by Captain Underpants, Crimson Chin, and Word Girl. That said, he hits hard. If he really does scale above Megamind's dehydration gun, he's 4 times stronger
What
than
was
Word
that?
Girl, although he's never touching her because she's about 300 times faster than him. And this is where Crimson Chin taps out as well. He's faster than Metro Man, but his strength just isn't enough to compete. Only town-level striking power if we scale him to Mighty Mom and Dino Dad. Word Girl
Damn.
is literally 1,000,000 times stronger and at least 4 times as fast. But if you notice, there's one name I haven't brought up much here because
Captain
it's just
Underpants.
not close. Captain Underpants
Is he the strongest
has
for
the
real?
strength to push around planets, meaning he's 2 quadrillion times stronger than Word Girl. Even if we assume he's half that strong, because the feat was done by Super Diaper
Is
Baby
he acting
and
like
Super Diaper Dog.
Lord
That's
Beerus?
still a quadrillion times stronger. She's not surviving a single punch from the Spandexed Avenger. That said, she is 16 times faster than him, and also fairly intelligent, while Captain Underpants is kind of a bumbling idiot. He's only catching her if he happens to get his hands on some Lexanite, which is very unlikely. Meanwhile, all Word Girl has to do is get a single drop of water on Captain Underpants, and he'll immediately be reverted back to Mr. Krupp.
But that's so
completely
weird, like, your
powerless.
weakness is water,
Captain
so, like,
Underpants
you
might
don't
be
bathe
the
your skin?
strongest, but his might
Nasty
pales
you.
into triviality beside the unparalleled swiftness of his youthful feminine adversary. The winner is Word Girl.
Mad.
Stay frosty.
I still think it's Sporticus because I just like him better. He's my childhood show. Superhero, parody, superhero, whatever it is. That was a good video. Thanks for watching. Like, sub, share. Until next time, man.